All right, let's bring into the conversation right now, again, here on Live Now from Fox, from the FTD. Thanks for sticking around, Joe. By the logic of what came out of that Gang of Eight meeting is that the United States was concerned that they would get a retaliatory strike from Iran, depending on if someone attacked them. And that nation potentially was Israel, saying that Iran was an existential threat. So by chance, they're saying that there's an imminent threat to the United States by this. Is that the same logic? What do we make of this? And do we agree with this assessment?
Right. I mean, listen, it's true. The Iranians, their proxy militias, their clients in the region, they've been threatening the United States, not just in recent days, in recent weeks, but for years now. This isn't anything new. So I think there would have been a response from Iran against American assets, whether in the region, for example. It absolutely could have happened. So I think the Americans' response, the president's response against Iran was appropriate. Now, I understand the senator's words and why he's concerned, but nevertheless, this is, again, a regime that has threatened not only Israel, but the United States for not weeks, not months, but for many years now. So this was an emerging threat, or this is a sustained threat from Iran that I think that needed to be dealt with. Now, ballistic missiles, nuclear facilities, those are the threats right now to the United States, to Israel, and to other regions and other allies in the region. And I think the United States is taking the appropriate response right now. But it's early. Again, just a few days into this conflict. I think we'll have a better understanding when this is over. But how long will this take? Are we talking about days? Are we talking about weeks? We don't know yet.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I'm going to come back to the question I asked you initially before the Gang of Eight meeting kind of concluded, talking about this being the objective. Mark Warner alluding to the fact that the objective, the goals might have changed a little bit. But based on the objective that we're hearing from that Gang of Eight meeting, is the United States achieving it some 48 hours? Is this in line with what we might expect, depending on how long it takes?
Right. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged that the United States, including Israel, will be able to achieve this objective simply because they have complete authority over the skies of Tehran and the rest of Iran right now. So, and of course, the United States military has the capability to eliminate these threats, eliminate the underground infrastructure in Iran that's housing either the nuclear facilities or these short and long-range ballistic missile sites. So absolutely, it can be done. Now, I think the big question here, more than anything, is that how long is the United States willing to take to achieve this objective? Again, it goes back to, are we talking about days or weeks here? So I think that's the big question here. And again, we have to wait and see. But I think that the biggest concern here is time and how long it's going to take to achieve these military goals.
Yeah, and a part of that objective, obviously, they're saying taking out the supreme leader was a great development. They took a lot of different leaders in that inner circle around them. And we know that potentially a power vacuum. We don't know who is going to be in the line of succession. How does that complicate things in terms of the timeline of who's in charge, who's leading Iran moving forward? Does that just murky the waters a little bit around this objective?
It's definitely possible. When you do not know who the leader is, it can complicate things. But I think of course, the Israelis, or of course the United States, has the intelligence or the capabilities to understand who is leading the forces or who has replaced the current leadership in Tehran, even if it hasn't been made public. All right, so I think that's one thing that I guess you could say it gives me hope about this. So nevertheless, it can complicate things, but I have not seen any indication that the Iranian regime is spiraling out of control. So what that entails, or what that means, is that there is someone or there are people that are controlling or directing the armed forces and the government. So things are still working. The wheels are still moving in the government there. So there is an authority. We just don't know exactly who that authority is, at least publicly. But again, American intelligence agencies and, of course, Israeli intelligence agencies probably have a good idea who it is.
Yeah, obviously a little bit is scattered, but they will clear it out. We're still, again, like 48 hours into this. I do want to ask you, because we're getting new live reports from on the ground in the Middle East, including in Israel, Trey Ying saying missile sirens sounding across northern Israel. We do have this live picture right now in Tel Aviv, and we've seen some flares, some sirens sounding, and it's an empty street, but it's also in the middle of the night as the officials in Israel telling people to hunker down for the time being based on this. But based on what we're seeing right now, Joe, from around the retaliation, because we've seen strikes in neighboring countries, 6 U.S. service members tragically losing their lives. What does that signal to you, how they are handling this counterattack, how they're handling this response?
I'll say this. Over the past 48 hours, Iran is, the way I see it, Iran has moved from absorbing the initial shock, right? The initial strikes to, as we see now, actively retaliating. So Tehran has launched ballistic missiles and drones targeting, of course, not only Israel, but as you mentioned, multiple Arab countries in the region, whether it's Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and all while Iranian officials are framing these attacks on the Arab countries and, of course, Israel as I would say as some type of defense, self-defense in response to Israeli and American attacks. But nevertheless, the thing is, what they've done with the Iranians, I'll say, is that they're not only attacking American or military bases, especially American bases in these Arab countries. I believe that they're deliberately attacking civilian targets in these countries. So that's a problem. Of course, Iranian attacks in the region have resulted in confirmed impacts, civilian casualties, and it underscores that this is not, right now what's happening, it's not a symbolic retaliation. It's Iran using its high-end capabilities. This is serious, essentially. So, at the end of the day, I think the Iranian leadership is signaling further escalation remains on the table. The officials have warned that U.S. military bases in the region could be targeted could be further targeted if Washington continues to attack Iran, which creates instability in the region. So again, this is just the first few days, but I think the United States, the region, Iran, of course, may be headed into an active war that can last days and perhaps weeks, which may create a lot of instability, especially in the oil markets.
Yeah, the prolonged nature, but how exactly long? Because Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth pushing back, saying there's not a forever war, similar to what we've seen in the past as well. I do want to ask you, because we spoke to your colleague at the FDD, Jonathan Schanzer, yesterday, talking about just this attack, this counter response from Iran. And last year in June, when Operation Midnight Hammer happened, the response not sophisticated. This time, also very unsophisticated in nature. But he said it was durable. What Iran's doing right now in terms of fighting back is durable, and they could extend this some time. Is that your assessment as well?
Right, I absolutely think so. The problem, I guess you could call it a problem right now, is that the Iranians, they learned from the 12th Day War last year. They learned the mistakes that they made, right? So now I believe that the Iranians, they feel that they are fighting for survival, all right? So what they're going to do, I think, or one of the strategic, one of their options is to outlast the United States, outlast the Israelis. And how do they do that? By coordinating, by organizing their forces, and of course their proxy forces in the region, and steadily attack these either the United States military bases in the region, and of course Israel. So effectively, they're not going to launch everything that they have in a few days, all right? They're going to extend it. The longer they can extend these attacks, I think the more of a chance that they have to survive this current war. And how do they do that? By coordinating, by organizing their forces, and of course their proxy forces in the region, and steadily attack these either the United States military bases in the region, and of course Israel. So effectively, they're not going to launch everything that they have in a few days. All right, they're going to extend it. The longer they can extend these attacks, I think the more of a chance that they have to survive this current war. Again, it just depends a lot, I think, on how capable or what the Israelis and, of course, the United States can do as far as attacking the targets that they need to within Iran and accomplishing those goals. Whether it's the nuclear facilities, whether it's the ballistic missile sites, or whether the long-range ballistic missiles or short-range, and other assets as well, like the Navy, for example, the Iran's Navy. So there's a lot at play here, but I know one thing is that it can't be done in a few days. This may take some time.
Yeah, patience is key, and obviously the U.S. military, the military might of the U.S. forces obviously is so pronounced and superior, but the American public, everything else, all the other factors, you have to watch out as well. Joe, my last question before I let you go, because 48 hours, we could potentially be at a month for this. That is kind of the expectation. What are you looking at the next several days? What are you keeping your eye on that could make or break what's going on in this Operation Epic Fury?
Right. Well, we haven't talked a lot about, at least in our conversation now, Iran's proxies, right? You have, of course, for example, Iraqi militias that have already begun firing at the U.S. assets in the region, in Iraq, for example. You have the Hezbollah in Lebanon, who has just entered the fray by firing rockets and drones at northern Israel. In the last 24 hours, but we haven't heard much about the Houthis. All right, we know how much problems they have caused in the past, but at the moment they have not entered. So there's a lot of actors involved here, which is my point. And I think there are countries in the region, especially the Gulf countries, that can only sustain so much attacks by not only the proxy organizations, but of course by Iran. So I don't know how they can hold out, how long they can hold out. And if they can't hold out, what will happen? These Gulf countries will start pressuring the United States to end the war, pressuring, of course, and Israel as well, which is something I think the United States doesn't want. It wants to see these military missions accomplished, right? Again, proxies are a factor. Other actors are a factor. Let's see how long these Gulf states and other countries can sustain these attacks. Maybe the Iranians can outlast them. We don't know yet. But again, we're just a few days in. So I think there's a lot of time ahead of us to see what's going to happen.
And that's why Secretary of State Marco Rubio kind of alluded to the fact why it was happening now, so they couldn't strengthen over the better part of a year, and then potentially if this happened in a year's time, they would have a little bit more stockpile of different assets. Joe Truzman, thank you so much for your insight. I appreciate you sticking around with us here for that King of 8 meeting. I appreciate your time here on Live Now.
Thank you.